Every year has its secrets, but 1996 was a liar. It smiled for the cameras while it hid three of history's darkest mysteries in plain sight. We remember the 1990s as a decade of bright colours and bold optimism, the dawn of the internet, the era of feel-good pop anthems. But history is a palimpsest, a document where the bright ink of memory often obscures the darker text written beneath. There was another 1996, a year playing out in a different key, a year where the American narrative of progress was punctuated by three deafening silences: a child murderer in a wealthy enclave that would never be solved, the assassination of a cultural icon that would never see justice, and the act of terror where the media, not the bomb, would prove out to be the most destructive force. This is not the story of a year we remember. This is the story of a year that remembers us. A year that holds on to its secrets with a cold, unyielding grip. This is the story of 1996, the year truth went missing. The story begins, as so many dark tales do, on a day of light, December 26, 1996, Boulder, Colorado. The Christmas decorations still glittered in the affluent, manicured neighborhoods, but in one home on Pine Street, a nightmare was unfolding. 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, a child beauty queen with a smile that captivated a nation, was reported missing. A ransom note was found, bizarrely long, demanding a sum oddly specific to her father's bonus. The police arrived. The scene was, from that very moment, lost. Friends, family, and well-meaning neighbours filtered through the house, obliterating evidence, touching everything, contaminating the story before it could even be told. Hours later, the story found its gruesome conclusion, not in a kidnapper's lair, but in the forgotten basement room of the Ramsey house. John Ramsey discovered his daughter's body. She had been strangled and struck on the head. The perfect crime scene was now the most compromised in the modern history. What followed was not an investigation, but a media frenzy. The public devoured every image of the little girl in sequins and lipstick. The parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, tried not in the court of law, but in the court of cable news. Was it an intruder, a botched kidnapping, or was the unthinkable true? Was this crime from within? The evidence was a house of mirrors. The ransom note written on a notepad from inside the house. A practice note was found in the trash. The DNA under her fingernails, a ghostly profile that belonged to no one in the family, yet could not be matched to any killer. The case became a test for a nation's fear about family, beauty, and the monsters that might live, not in the shadows, but in the next room. To this day, the Boulder basement holds its silence. JonBenet's killer, whether stranger or kin, has never been conclusively named. It remains the most famous cold case in American history, a perfect, unsolvable puzzle, because the pieces were scattered before we even knew we were playing the game. If the Ramsey case was a silent domestic horror, the second silence of 1996 was deafeningly public. It happened under the neon glare of the Las Vegas Strip, and it involved a man who built his legend on being anything but silent. Tupac Amaru Shakur was more than a rapper. He was a phenomenon, a poet, a preacher, a convict, contradiction. He was the embodiment of the East Coast, West Coast rap war, a feud that pulsed with real animosity and performative bravado. On September 7, 1996, after attending a Mike Tyson fight, Tupac's BMW was pulled alongside his stoplight, a window rolled down, and 13 bullets tore into the hip-hop icon. He died 6 days later. The news didn't just break, it reverberated around the world, silencing stereos in a million dorm rooms. The crime seemed on the surface obvious, a violent coda to the violent rivalry. But the obviousness was a facade. The Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's investigation stalled almost immediately. Witnesses climbed up, evidence vanished. The street code of no snitching was a wall they could not breach. The silence that followed was not an absence of sound, but an absence of truth. Conspiracy theories bloomed like nightshade. Was it a gang initiation? A hit ordered by a rival label? Was it even real? Some claimed he faked his own death. The lack of answers became an answer in itself, a testament to a world so shrouded in myth and menace that the truth could not survive it. Tupac's murder was not just the killing of a man, it was the assassination of a voice, and in the void he left behind, all we heard was echo, an echo of gunfire on a Vegas street that has for nearly 3 decades refused to fade. The third atrocity of 1996 was the most dangerous kind, the silence of a siren after it had wrongfully sounded. It happened in Atlanta at the Centennial Olympic Park, a place designed to be a global gathering of peace and sport. On July 27th, during a late-night concert, a knapsack was left under a bench. Inside was a pipe bomb. When it detonated, it tore through the crowd, killing spectator Alice Hawthorne and injuring 111 others. A second death, that of cameraman Melaya Ozuniol, came from a heart attack suffered as he rushed to film the chaos. The world watched live as the Olympics, a symbol of unity, were attacked by an unknown terror. In the frantic search for answers, the media and the FBI found a culprit. His name was Richard Jewell. He was a security guard who had discovered the bag and heroically helped clear the area before it exploded. But in the desperate need for a narrative, his heroism was twisted into a profile. He was a loner, a failed law enforcement aspirant. He fit the flawed psychology of a lone wolf seeking glory by stopping a crisis he himself created. The truth was silenced by the roar of a ravenous news cycle. Richard Jewell was tried and convicted in the press. His life was dismantled. It took 3 months for the Department of Justice to officially clear his name, but the damage was irrevocable. The real bomber, anti-government extremist Eric Rudolph, would not be captured for years. The bombing was an unspeakable crime, but the destruction of Richard Jewell was an unspeakable tragedy. What happened in its wake? It was a crime committed not with a bomb, but with a broadcast. A reminder that the thirst for a story can sometimes be more destructive than the desire for justice. 3 silences: a basement in Colorado, a street in Vegas, a park in Atlanta. 3 places where the truth was the first casualty. The jonbenet Ramsey case shows us how truth can be contaminated. The Tupac Shakur case shows us how truth can be intimidated into silence. The Olympic bombing case shows us how truth can be shouted down by a lie that's more convenient. 1996 promised us a future of connection and clarity, but it left us with a legacy of whispers. These cases are more than cold files. They are cautions. They are echoes from a year that taught us that the earliest thing to lose is the truth, and the hardest thing to ever find again is closure. They remind us that some years are not defined by the history we write, but by the mysteries we are forced to leave behind. What unsolved mysteries from the past still whispers to you? Tell us in the comments below, and subscribe to Echoes of the Past for more journeys into the shadows where history and mystery meet.